Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. In the world of coin collecting, there are stories that sound almost unbelievable, legends that grow from tiny pieces of metal into tales worth millions of dollars. The 1992 1-cent coin, the humble Lincoln penny, is one of those stories. When people hear about a small copper-colored coin worth a staggering $168 million, the first reaction is disbelief. How can something so ordinary, something we have all seen rolling under our car seats or lying forgotten in drawers, suddenly be worth a fortune larger than most people can imagine? The answer lies in the details, in the history, in the tiny imperfections that make a simple coin an extraordinary treasure. To understand why a 1992 penny could be valued so high, we need to go back in time, to the roots of the Lincoln cent itself, and trace how small changes in design, minting errors, and rarity can create unimaginable worth. The Lincoln penny has a long and fascinating history that began in 1909, when the United States Mint decided to honor the centennial birth of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Before Lincoln, no real person had ever appeared on an American coin. The decision broke tradition, replacing the symbolic figures of liberty that had graced earlier coins. The designer was Victor David Brenner, a sculptor whose initials VDB became famous, and sometimes controversial, on the reverse of the first Lincoln cents. His design showed a right-facing portrait of Lincoln, modeled from a photograph and from the artist's own plaster sculptures, while the back carried two wheat stalks, symbolizing prosperity and the agricultural strength of the nation. Over the decades, this design would evolve, and the composition of the coin itself would change with the economy, wars, and inflation, but Lincoln would remain the face of the American cent. By 1959, to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse design changed from the wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial, a neoclassical monument in Washington, D.C. This design, created by Frank Gasparo, continued for decades, from 1959 until 2008, and it is this version that we find on the 1992 penny. So when we speak of the 1992 cent, we are talking about a coin with Lincoln's profile on the obverse, the front side, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, the back. The coin, by appearance, is ordinary, mass-produced, used in everyday commerce, not particularly eye-catching. Yet, hidden among billions of these coins, a few rare varieties possess features so subtle and so unique that collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to own them. The standard 1992 1-cent coin weighs approximately 2.5 grams, made primarily of zinc with a thin copper coating. This composition was introduced in 1982, when the mint switched from solid bronze due to rising copper costs. Before 1982, pennies were made of about 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. Afterward, they became 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating. The 1992 penny therefore carries the metallic fingerprint of its era, lightweight, silvery underneath, reddish on the surface. The diameter is 19.05 millimeters, with a smooth edge, and the obverse design shows Abraham Lincoln's bust facing right, the word liberty to his left, and the date 1992 to his right. Above his head arches the familiar motto, "I in God we trust," a phrase first used on coins during the Civil War era as a declaration of national faith. On the reverse, centered beneath the inscription United States of America and the national motto E Pluribus Unum, sits the Lincoln Memorial, its columns detailed enough that, under magnification, one can even see a tiny seated statue of Lincoln inside. Now, the interesting part comes when we talk about the mint marks and design variations that make some 1992 cents rare beyond measure. There are three main mints that produce pennies that year: Philadelphia, with no mint mark, Denver, marked D, and San Francisco, marked S. Each mint struck millions of coins, but among them, a few anomalies slipped through. coins that bore the wrong design combination. Specifically, the 1992 close AM variety. Most 1992 pennies have a wide spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse. But in a few extremely rare cases, the design used had the A and M almost touching, known as the close AM variety. This design was actually intended for the following year, 1993, but by accident, a small number of 1,992 coins were struck using the new reverse die. These are the coins that drive collectors wild. The close AM pennies are visually almost identical to regular ones, but when examined closely, the difference is striking to an expert. On the regular 1992 cent, there is a clear gap between the A and M, with the right leg of the A and the left leg of the M being distinctly separated. On the close AM, the two letters nearly touch at their base. Additionally, the spacing of the letters in the word states is slightly different, and Lincoln's initials FG appear in a slightly altered position, indicating a different die variety. The number of these 1992 close AM cents discovered so far is extremely small, fewer than a few dozen known examples, making them among the rarest Lincoln cents ever struck in modern history. What makes this so exciting is that most people, including collectors, might have hundreds or thousands of 1992 pennies sitting unnoticed, never realizing they could be holding a coin worth thousands, even millions. The rarity, combined with the story of an accidental die mix-up, fuels a sense of mystery and excitement. Imagine the thrill of discovering that a coin you found in change or in an old jar is one of the rarest pieces of numismatic history. That is part of what makes the 1992 penny legend so powerful. It bridges ordinary life and extraordinary value. Over the years, auctions have seen remarkable prices for these coins. While no verified 1992 penny has officially sold for $168 million, this figure symbolizes the theoretical or sensational value collectors and enthusiasts assign to the rarest examples. The record prices known in actual auctions are in the tens of thousands, but in hypothetical or exaggerated discussions, especially in the context of viral online videos, some people claim values in the hundreds of millions. These stories spread quickly across social media and YouTube, capturing the imagination of millions of viewers who love the idea of treasure hiding in plain sight. The 1992 close AM penny, whether realistically worth thousands or speculatively worth millions, represents the dream of finding hidden wealth in something as common as pocket change. The reason such coins can achieve extreme value lies in the principles of rarity and demand. In numismatics, rarity alone is not enough. There must be collectors who want the coin badly enough to pay extraordinary sums. The Lincoln series, being one of the longest continuously minted coins in the world, has a massive following. Millions of collectors have albums dedicated solely to Lincoln cents, searching for missing years, mint marks, and varieties. For them, the 1992 close AM is a holy grail. Its scarcity, combined with the dramatic story of how it came to be, ensures its place in coin collecting lore. Every known specimen is examined, certified, and often encapsulated in a transparent holder by professional grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, which assign it an official grade based on condition, luster, and strike. Condition plays a major role in determining a coin's value. A 1992 close AM penny found in circulation may show wear and scratches, reducing its grade to fine or very fine, but still being extremely valuable due to its rarity. However, an uncirculated or mint state example, meaning it shows no signs of wear, can command astronomical prices. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless specimen. A 1992 D close AM graded MS67 or higher is considered a national treasure among coin experts. Such coins have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and stories of even higher theoretical values often circulate online, fueling dreams of overnight fortune. The fascination with this coin also stems from the artistry and the historical symbolism of the Lincoln set. Abraham Lincoln's face has been on the set longer than any other individual's likeness has appeared on any circulating U.S. coin. It's a tribute to a president who led the country through its darkest days of division and conflict. Every detail of the coin, from Lincoln's thoughtful gaze to the carefully inscribed mottos, carries historical weight. The change from the wheat ears to the memorial reverse in 1959, and later to the Union Shield design in 2010, reflects the evolving narrative of American identity and commemoration. Holding a 1992 penny is like holding a piece of that continuous history, a fragment of the nation's enduring memory stamped in metal. But when we talk about coins worth millions, skepticism naturally arises. How can a small piece of zinc and copper reach such mind-boggling values? The truth is that in numismatics, value is often psychological and historical, not just material. A rare variety becomes a symbol of discovery, an artifact of human error, and a challenge to those who hunt for it. Each 1992 close AM found validates years of searching and fuels the passion of an entire community. For collectors, it's not just about money, it's about the thrill of finding something that almost nobody else has. The 1992 penny represents the perfect storm of rarity, story, and mystique. The U.S. Mint's own documentation suggests that these close AM dies were intended exclusively for the 1993 series. So how did they end up being used in 1992? Theories abound. Some experts believe that a small number of 1,993 reverse dies were accidentally prepared early and mistakenly paired with 1992 obverse dies at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Others think it might have been an intentional test of the new reverse design. Either way, only a handful escaped into circulation, likely unnoticed for years. It wasn't until the late 1990s that collectors began to identify and report these rare varieties, and since then, they have become one of the most sought-after modern-era coins in U.S. history. Even today, thousands of people examine their change daily, inspired by stories of the 1992 penny. They hold the coin up to the light, squinting to see the spacing between the letters, wondering if luck has finally smiled on them. The search has become a kind of modern treasure hunt. Online forums and YouTube channels are filled with videos of collectors showing how to identify close AM versus wide AM coins, sharing magnified photos, and discussing grading results. The excitement is contagious, and every new discovery adds fuel to the myth. The story of the 1992 penny also reflects something deeper about human nature. We are fascinated by the idea that ordinary things can hide extraordinary secrets. The same impulse that drives treasure hunters to dig for gold or archaeologists to unearth relics drives coin collectors to sift through jars of change. Each penny becomes a tiny mystery, a potential window into history and fortune. When people hear that a 1992 penny could be worth $168 million, they are not just hearing about money, they are hearing about possibility, about the dream that hidden wealth might be closer than they think. Collectors and historians alike often point out that the story of a coin is more than just its market price. It's a mirror of the era that created it. The 1992 penny stands at a fascinating crossroads between tradition and change. The early 1990s were a time when the United States Mint was improving its production technology, experimenting with die designs, and preparing for a new era of precision minting. The transition from one design to another always carries with it the risk of mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes become miracles. That's what happened with the 1992 close AM cents, a small oversight that turned a simple coin into one of the rarest modern treasures. Each 1992 cent started its life like billions of others, minted in large presses that struck metal blanks into finished coins at lightning speed. Each press could strike hundreds of coins per minute, the rhythmic clanging echoing through vast minting rooms filled with mechanical power and heat. The metal blanks were carefully prepared zinc discs coated with a thin layer of copper. When struck by the dies, the metal would flow into the engraved recesses, forming Lincoln's face, the inscriptions, and the intricate design of the Lincoln Memorial. The dies, engraved steel tools used to impress these designs, had to be replaced frequently due to wear. It's during these die changes, when new dies are installed, that mix-ups can happen, and that's when history is accidentally made. Imagine the moment inside the mint in late 1992 when a new reverse die was mistakenly selected, a die meant for the 1993 design. The engraver or technician, perhaps unaware of the subtle difference between the spacing of the letters in America, installed it in the press, paired it with a 1992 obverse die, and began striking coins. The production may have lasted minutes, perhaps hours, before the error was caught or the dies were replaced again. But in that brief window, a few thousand, maybe only a few hundred, coins were struck, each carrying a hidden anomaly that would go unnoticed for years. Those coins left the mint, traveled through banks, stores, and pockets. They were spent on gum, candy, and newspapers, dropped into change jars, or lost in couch cushions. For nearly a decade, they circulated like any other penny. Only later, as collectors began cataloging varieties and comparing details, did someone notice that the A and M on a certain 1992 set were strangely close together. That discovery sent ripples through the numismatic world. Suddenly, everyone began examining their 1992 pennies under magnifying glasses, looking for the telltale signs of the close AM variety. A few more were found, verified, and authenticated, and soon the legend was born. The 1992 penny that could change your life. In the years since, coin grading companies have played a crucial role in verifying these coins. A coin's authenticity and grade determine its market value, and no serious collector will buy a rare variety without certification. When a 1992 close AM is submitted for grading, it goes through multiple stages of examination. Experts check the weight, diameter, edge, and surface details. They study the reverse lettering under magnification, comparing it to reference photographs. If the A and M are indeed touching, and the initials FG are in the correct position for the 1993 reverse, the coin is declared genuine. It's then assigned a grade, anything from about uncirculated AU to mint state MS. High-grade examples are encapsulated in a protective holder with a serial number, forever preserving their condition and identity. The difference in value between a worn 1992 close AM and a pristine, mint-state specimen is immense. A circulated example might sell for several $1,000s, but a flawless MS-67 or MS-68 example can reach tens of thousands. Online, rumors and myths inflate this number even further, with sensational claims of hundreds of millions. The viral figure of $168 million, while exaggerated, symbolizes how the story has captured the public imagination. In truth, no single 1992 penny has ever sold for such an amount, but the hype serves a purpose. It keeps people searching, keeps them dreaming, and brings new enthusiasts into the world of coin collecting. The emotional and cultural value of the story far exceeds the financial one. The Lincoln Cents design, too, holds layers of meaning. Victor D. Brenner's original 1909 portrait was inspired by Lincoln's photograph taken by Matthew Brady, one of the most famous photographers of the 19th century. Brenner sought to capture Lincoln's calm strength, his humanity, and his resolve. The simplicity of the design, with Lincoln's profile against a smooth background, reflects dignity and humility, qualities that made Lincoln beloved. Over the years, this design has become a constant reminder of American ideals, printed billions of times, touching every generation since 1909. In 1992, that legacy continued, but hidden within it was a tiny flaw that would make certain coins almost mythical. The reverse design by Frank Gasparo, introduced in 1959, was equally symbolic. The Lincoln Memorial, with its classical architecture and symmetry, served as a national shrine to freedom and unity. Gasparo's challenge was to compress the grandeur of the real structure into the tiny space of a coin's reverse. He succeeded so well that collectors can still see the miniature seated figure of Lincoln between the columns, a remarkable detail considering the scale. The inscriptions above and below, United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent, complete the message of national pride. When a die intended for 1993 altered the spacing of the letters, it may have seemed like a minor adjustment to the mint, but to collectors, that difference is monumental. It's fascinating how such minute details can transform value. The difference between the close AM and wide AM coins can't be seen without careful inspection. To the untrained eye, they look identical, yet one is worth a single cent, and the other could buy a car, a house, or more. This phenomenon demonstrates the incredible precision of numismatics, the art and science of studying coins. Collectors train themselves to notice these details, to spot the difference in the thickness of a letter, the tilt of a mint mark, the texture of a die-polished line. Each discovery deepens their connection to history and craftsmanship. When we speak of the weight of the 1992 penny, 2.5 grams, it may seem trivial, but even that number tells a story. The switch from copper to zinc in 1982 was a turning point. Rising copper prices made it uneconomical to continue minting solid bronze cents. So the mint adopted a copper-plated zinc composition, saving millions of dollars annually. The new pennies looked almost identical to the old ones, but they were much lighter. Over time, however, the zinc core proved less durable, often corroding or forming bubbles under the copper plating. For collectors, this change added another layer of complexity, as they had to distinguish between the old and new metal types. By 1992, the zinc cent was the norm, and the idea of a copper penny had become nostalgic, a relic of the past. The mint mark on a coin can also influence its value dramatically. For 1992, the Philadelphia Mint produced coins without a mint mark, Denver used the D, and San Francisco produced proof coins with the S. Proof coins are struck using specially polished dies on high-quality planchets, resulting in mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. These are not intended for circulation, but for collectors. However, even proof coins can contain errors. A 1992 S-proof close AM penny would be considered even rarer than its circulation strike counterpart, as only a few such examples have ever surfaced. Proof coins are highly scrutinized, and any variation becomes instantly famous. The world of coin collecting thrives on these differences: mint marks, die varieties, errors, and anomalies. Each one adds a new chapter to the ongoing story of the Lincoln cent collectors. Categorize coins not only by year and mint, but by these microscopic details. They maintain catalogs, reference books, and photographic archives. The 1992 close AM variety is listed in specialized guides like the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties, a Bible for collectors hunting for hidden treasures in common coins. The very name, cherry picking, comes from the idea of finding the best, most valuable coin among many ordinary ones, a perfect metaphor for discovering a 1992 close AM in a pile of regular pennies. The market value of such coins fluctuates depending on demand, publicity, and availability. When a new discovery makes headlines, interest surges, and prices can spike. A single YouTube video or news article can ignite a global search. People empty their piggy banks, check old jars, and inspect coins under magnifiers, all hoping to find one of these elusive pieces. This cycle of discovery and excitement fuels the hobby and keeps the legend alive. Even though only a handful of genuine close AM coins exist, the possibility that one might still be hiding somewhere keeps people hooked. That's the magic of numismatics, the endless hope that the next coin you flip over could be the one. Beyond its financial aspect, the 1992 penny tells a story about craftsmanship and human imperfection. Every minting error is, at its core, a product of human hands or human oversight. It's a reminder that even in a world of machines and precision engineering, perfection is elusive. These tiny flaws make the coins uniquely human, giving them character and individuality. A perfectly struck, flawless coin might be beautiful, but an error coin carries a story, a glimpse into the unpredictable nature of creation itself. That's why collectors cherish them so deeply. The 1992 close AM is more than a piece of metal. It's a story captured in copper and zinc, a frozen moment of accident and opportunity. The psychological allure of such stories cannot be overstated. People are drawn to tales of hidden fortune. The idea that something so small and seemingly worthless could secretly be a life-changing treasure appeals to our imagination. It's the same feeling that makes us dig through old drawers, search antique shops, or buy lottery tickets. It's hope, condensed into a physical object. The 1992 penny, in this sense, has become a symbol of that universal human hope, that maybe, just maybe, luck is waiting in our own hands. While the legendary figure of $168 million may be more myth than fact, the fascination it inspires is real. Even major news outlets and coin experts occasionally field questions about it. They explain that while no coin has achieved that value, the most pristine examples have sold for astonishing sums relative to their face value. To put it into perspective, a penny worth $25,000 is already 2.5 million times its face value, a staggering return for something most people overlook daily. The lesson here is not about literal millions, but about perception, rarity, and attention to detail. Over the years, many coins have achieved legendary status. The 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, the 1909 SVDB, and the 1969 S double die. Each of these is valuable because of a mistake, a quirk in the minting process that turned ordinary coins into prized artifacts. The 1992 close AM joins this elite group, representing the modern era's most famous minting anomaly. It proves that even in the age of advanced technology, accidents can still happen, and those accidents can make history. Numismatists often say that every coin has a story. When you hold a penny from 1992, you are holding a piece of America's economic and artistic history. You are touching something that passed through countless hands, each with its own journey. And if that penny happens to have the close AM variety, you are holding something that connects you directly to a moment of minting mystery. It's like holding lightning in your palm, a spark of history preserved by chance. The global fascination with rare coins has grown exponentially thanks to the internet. YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are filled with videos of people finding rare pennies, nickels, and dimes. Many of these videos feature the 1992 penny as the ultimate find, the dream coin. Viewers watch as collectors demonstrate how to identify the close AM, using zoomed-in lenses and clear comparisons. The excitement is contagious, and comment sections fill with people saying they're going to check their own change right away. This community-driven enthusiasm keeps the hobby alive, bridging generations and cultures. It's no longer just about coins. It's about curiosity, history, and storytelling. When a story grows this large, when a single coin becomes the subject of endless fascination, the conversation naturally expands to include questions of authenticity and trust. Every collector who hears about a coin supposedly worth millions begins to wonder how to tell the real ones from the counterfeits, how to protect themselves from myths and misinformation. The 1992 close AM penny is no exception. Its fame has invited imitation, exaggeration, and confusion, yet at its core lies a real and verifiable numismatic phenomenon that deserves careful study rather than disbelief. To understand it fully, one must dive deeper into the language of grading, the science of authentication, and the psychology of collecting that drives human beings to assign enormous value to tiny objects of art and error. Professional grading systems form the backbone of the modern coin market. Before the 1970s, coin values were often negotiated informally between buyers and sellers, using vague descriptions like fine or uncirculated. Disputes were common because what looked uncirculated to one person might seem slightly worn to another. Then came the Sheldon grading scale, named after Dr. William Sheldon, who in 1949 proposed a numerical range from 1 to 70 to quantify condition precisely. Over time, this system became universal. A coin graded 1 is barely recognizable, while 70 represents absolute perfection under magnification. When certification companies such as PCGS and NGC emerged in the 1980s, they standardized this process, encapsulating coins in tamper-evident holders with unique serial numbers. This revolutionized collecting. Suddenly, investors and hobbyists could trade coins sight unseen, confident that the grade and authenticity were verified by experts. For the 1992 close AM penny, this grading process is especially important because the line between ordinary and extraordinary lies in fractions of a millimeter. An authentic example must show the two letters A and M nearly touching at their base, the spacing of states slightly altered, and the initials FG placed closer to the memorial building. Even professional graders use microscopes and reference templates to confirm these markers. Once certified, the coin's grade becomes its identity. A 1992 D-Close AM in MS67 red, for instance, carries a different market expectation than one in -55 Australian dollars brown. Color designations, red, red-brown, and brown, refer to how much of the original copper luster remains visible on the surface. Freshly minted pennies gleam with a fiery orange-red tone, but as copper oxidizes, it darkens to chocolate or mahogany hues. Collectors prize the bright red examples because they retain the look of a freshly struck coin, unspoiled by time. Authentication also involves weighing the coin and measuring its dimensions with calipers. A genuine 1992 cent should weigh about 2.50 grams, with a tolerance of plus or minus 0.13 grams, and measure 19.05 millimeters in diameter. Any significant deviation might indicate a counterfeit or an altered coin. Counterfeiters sometimes take ordinary 1992 white AM coins and attempt to modify the letters to mimic the close AM variety. Under magnification, such tampering becomes obvious. The metal around the letters appears scraped or re-engraved, and tool marks betray the deception. Professional graders can detect these signs instantly, but amateur collectors must learn to be cautious. In the world of valuable varieties, knowledge is both shield and sword. While physical characteristics establish authenticity, market forces determine value. Coin prices move much like stocks or art. They depend on rarity, demand, and condition. When the first confirmed 1992 D-Close AM appeared publicly in the late 1990s, it caused a sensation. Articles in numismatic journals sparked interest, and auction houses realized they had a new star. Early examples sold for only a few $100s, but as awareness spread and the number of known pieces remained tiny, prices climbed rapidly. By the mid-2000s, certified high-grade specimens were fetching thousands. Every new discovery reignited the craze, proving that even decades after minting, treasures could still emerge from everyday change. The internet amplified this phenomenon dramatically. Forums and social media transformed the hunt into a worldwide competition. A single post showing a blurry photo of a suspiciously close A and M could draw thousands of comments from eager collectors offering opinions, encouragement, or disbelief. Video platforms took it further, content creators filmed themselves searching rolls of pennies, narrating each moment of discovery or disappointment. Viewers followed along, experiencing vicarious excitement and learning the details of coin identification. This democratization of information brought countless new participants into the hobby, blurring the line between professional numismatist and casual treasure hunter. Yet alongside genuine education came exaggeration. Titles promising. A 1992 penny worth $168 million found. Spread like wildfire. Audiences, captivated by the fantasy of overnight wealth, clicked in droves. The figure itself has no documented sale behind it, but it represents something deeper, the hyperbolic expression of value in a digital age where numbers serve as metaphors for wonder. In truth, the highest verified prices for 1992 close AM pennies remain in the tens of thousands, but the myth of hundreds of millions persists because it captures the imagination more powerfully than any spreadsheet could. The legend becomes a form of storytelling currency, traded in views and dreams instead of dollars. Psychologists studying collecting behavior note that this allure of hidden value satisfies several human instincts simultaneously: curiosity, ownership, competition, and hope. The act of searching coins taps into the same neural circuits that once helped our ancestors forage for food or precious stones. Every time someone checks their change, they experience a small rush of possibility, the gambler's thrill of uncertainty mixed with the satisfaction of discovery. Even when nothing extraordinary appears, the ritual itself provides comfort and excitement. For many collectors, the journey matters more than the jackpot. The 1992 close AM simply serves as a tangible symbol of that quest. Economically, the Lincoln cent also occupies a paradoxical position. It costs more than a cent to produce, yet it remains in circulation largely for tradition and sentiment. Each year, the mint debates whether to retire it, citing inefficiency, but public attachment to the familiar copper coin prevents its disappearance. This emotional attachment adds another layer of value to rare varieties. People don't just collect pennies, they collect memories. The 1992 penny, appearing during an era of changing design technology, bridges old-world craftsmanship and modern minting. It carries nostalgia for older copper coins while embodying the sleek precision of computer-assisted engraving. Metallurgically, its structure tells a complex story. Beneath the copper plating lies a zinc core that can corrode if the outer layer is breached. Over time, environmental exposure can cause white powdery oxidation or bubbling, phenomena familiar to anyone who has found an old zinc penny eaten away by moisture. Because of this vulnerability, pristine 1992 pennies are harder to find than earlier copper issues. Collectors often store them in climate-controlled holders to preserve their luster. The irony is striking. The coin's material fragility enhances its emotional strength, reminding people that even humble objects need care to endure. From a historical standpoint, the Lincoln series stands as one of the longest-running portraits in coinage history. Other nations have changed designs repeatedly, yet Lincoln endures. His image survived wars, recessions, and cultural shifts, quietly witnessing the passage of more than a century. Each redesign of the reverse, wheat ears, memorial, and eventually the Union Shield introduced in 2010, represents a chapter in national self-reflection. The 1992 issue, near the end of the memorial era, captures the late 20th century mood, stable, industrial, yet preparing for renewal. That context gives even ordinary 1992 pennies a subtle historical charm, while the rare close AM variety becomes its mysterious punctuation mark. Authentication stories often describe the first time someone realizes they possess a rarity. One famous account involves a Midwestern collector who, while sorting through a box of pennies purchased from a local bank, noticed an unusual spacing in America on a 1992 D cent. Doubting his eyes, he compared it to others, then sent it for certification. Weeks later, the confirmation arrived. Genuine close AM, MS64 red. He sold it for several $1,000s, enough to pay off debts and spark a lifelong passion for error coins. Stories like these circulate widely, blending fact and legend, inspiring new treasure hunters daily. Even if most seekers never find such a coin, the shared narrative keeps them connected, a community bound by curiosity and hope. Technology now aids the search. High-resolution smartphone cameras, digital microscopes, and AI-powered recognition apps allow anyone to examine coins at home. Collectors share ultra-zoom photos online, drawing on collective expertise to identify varieties. Artificial intelligence has even begun classifying die markers automatically, promising a future where rare coins can be verified in seconds. Still, human intuition remains essential. The joy of discovery lies not in automation, but in personal observation. The moment your own eyes notice something the machine overlooked. In recent years, the broader coin market has seen surges and corrections similar to art and cryptocurrency markets. Economic uncertainty tends to push people toward tangible assets, and coins benefit from that sentiment. High-grade rare varieties often outperform average investment vehicles because they combine intrinsic metal value, historical significance, and collector demand. When inflation rises, investors seek physical reminders of stability, and few objects represent enduring value like a century-old penny bearing Lincoln's face. The 1992 close AM, being scarce and well-documented, sits at the intersection of hobby and investment, attracting both emotional and financial interest. The mythic $168 million valuation, while fictional, serves as a teaching moment about how information spreads. In online spaces, exaggeration becomes entertainment, and entertainment becomes belief. But behind every viral claim lies a kernel of truth, the potential for small things to hold great worth. When viewers hear the phrase, "worth $168 million," what they truly absorb is a message of hope, that there are still undiscovered wonders in a world dominated by mass production. This psychological resonance explains why videos about rare pennies reach millions of views. The number is symbolic, a modern fairy tale exaggeration that keeps curiosity alive. Yet, experts emphasize responsible storytelling. They remind audiences that genuine numismatic value is measured by scarcity, condition, and demand, not by sensational headlines. A realistic view makes the hobby sustainable, encouraging education rather than speculation. Collectors who learn the underlying principles, how dies are made, how to read mint marks, how grading works, gain appreciation for craftsmanship rather than chasing imaginary jackpots. In this sense, the 1992 penny serves as both a cautionary tale and a gateway to knowledge. It invites people into history, then teaches them discernment. To grasp how such a coin could inspire global attention, consider the symbolic weight of the Lincoln cent itself. It represents honesty, hard work, and humility, the idea that greatness can arise from modest beginnings. Turning that same humble coin into a multi-million-dollar legend mirrors Lincoln's own journey from log cabin to presidency. The narrative symmetry feels poetic, almost destined. That poetry explains why the 1992 close AM resonates beyond the collector's table. It speaks to anyone who believes in transformation and hidden potential waiting to be recognized. The persistence of the legend also illustrates how stories evolve. Each retelling adds details. Someone claims the coin was found in an attic, another says it came from change at a gas station, yet another insists a forgotten roll in a grandmother's drawer yielded the fortune. These embellishments keep the myth alive because they make it personal. Listeners imagine themselves in those rolls, finding treasure where least expected. The coin becomes a metaphor for discovery in everyday life, the possibility that extraordinary things hide behind ordinary appearances. Economists studying collectibles often point out that markets built on emotion are surprisingly resilient. While prices fluctuate, the underlying passion remains constant. People don't stop loving stories, and every rare coin carries one. That enduring narrative ensures that even if the actual dollar value of the 1992 close AM changes, its cultural value will persist. Museums display them as symbols of modern minting history. Educational programs use them to teach students about manufacturing errors, and media outlets revisit the topic whenever new discoveries appear. The coin has transcended currency. It has become a cultural artifact. At the heart of all this lies a simple truth: value is a story we agree to tell together. A penny is worth a cent because society says so. A rare penny becomes priceless because collectors agree it embodies history and rarity. The 1992 close AM, whether sold for thousands or mythologized at $168 million, reminds us that meaning, not metal, creates worth. When you hold one, you hold not just zinc and copper, but imagination itself, compressed into 20 millimeters of possibility. Every generation rediscovers the same small copper disc and gives it new meaning. By the time the 1990s arrived, the Lincoln cent had already become more than a century-old habit, something Americans handled daily without thinking, yet its image had seeped into the collective memory of an entire nation. To most people, the penny was merely the lowest rung of money, but to numismatists it was a living archive, tiny portraits of technological progress, political symbolism, and artistic evolution pressed into metal year after year. The 1992 issue, while outwardly ordinary, now stands as the moment when a tiny variation exposed how fragile perfection can be. A single mismatched die, perhaps swapped during a night shift or mislabeled in storage, created a mystery that would keep collectors talking for decades. When one looks closely at any coin, the craftsmanship becomes mesmerizing. The polished dies start as steel cylinders carefully engraved under microscopes, each letter and line cut by precision tools guided by computers. The process combines art and engineering. Engravers model the design in digital reliefs, transfer it to a master hub, then create working dies that will actually strike the coins. Each die endures enormous pressure, tons of force delivered hundreds of times a minute. As they wear down, the lines soften, and new dies replace them. Somewhere in that rotation, the wrong reverse die was selected for the 1992 batch. The act was simple, almost invisible at the time, yet its consequence would ripple through history. The Lincoln Memorial reverse, used from 1959 until 2008, had gone through several quiet revisions. Each change was subtle, minute adjustments in spacing, font, or relief intended to improve striking quality. The 1993 design tightened the lettering slightly and moved the initials FG, representing engraver Frank Gasparo. The new die was supposed to debut the next year, but a few made their way into 1992 production. The result was the close AM. Collectors sometimes say that destiny hides in details. Here, destiny hid between two letters barely a hair's breadth apart. When these coins eventually emerged, decades later, they became proof that even in an industrialized minting system, accidents could still slip through. It is comforting, in a strange way, to realize that perfection remains beyond machines, that human oversight and randomness still shape our artifacts. Each close AM is like a whisper from the factory floor, a reminder that history often begins with small mistakes noticed only by patient eyes. As word of the variety spread, the 1992 penny transformed from background noise into obsession. Coin shops that once ignored modern pennies began fielding phone calls from curious people convinced they might have struck gold in their change jars. Television segments featured stories about the penny that could make you rich. Local newspapers ran headlines comparing its price to luxury cars and houses. Suddenly, an object worth less than the gum it bought became a symbol of luck, patience, and hope. This cultural phenomenon says as much about the human mind as it does about the coin itself. collectors often describe their hobby as a dialogue with time. Each coin carries traces of every hand that has touched it. On some, microscopic scratches reveal the pockets, counters, and cash drawers of decades past. When a 1992 close AM turns up with sharp mint luster in nowhere, it feels miraculous, as though the universe intentionally preserved that sliver of metal for discovery. People who find one describe the moment with awe, eyes widening, heart racing, disbelief mixing with triumph. It's a quiet miracle that requires no lottery ticket, only attention. Outside the United States, similar stories unfold with other currencies. In Canada, the 1955 no shoulder fold cent and the 2000 p mint-marked mule are legendary. In Australia, the 2000 $1/10 mule, featuring a mismatched obverse and reverse, caused national excitement when discovered. In the United Kingdom, the 2008 undated 20-pence piece generated headlines when ordinary citizens realized their change might be worth thousands. These parallels show that every mint in the world, no matter how advanced, occasionally produces errors that later become treasures. The 1992 close AM belongs to this international family of accidents that fascinate not because of material value, but because they expose the thin boundary between routine and rarity. The economics of rarity operate under simple yet powerful laws. When supply is microscopic and demand is vast, prices defy logic. Even if only 20 or 30 genuine 1992 close AM pennies exist, millions of people have heard of them. That imbalance transforms each specimen into a celebrity, commanding attention and money disproportionate to its size. In auctions, competition is fierce. Bidders watch online screens, fingers poised, knowing that once a rare coin sells, it may not appear again for years. When the hammer falls, applause ripples through the room, not because of the dollar figure alone, but because everyone witnesses history trading hands. To comprehend how a few grams of metal inspire such passion, one must consider symbolism. The Lincoln cent embodies persistence. It has survived calls for abolition, shifts in metal composition, and decades of inflation. Its continued existence reflects the nation's attachment to continuity. The image of Lincoln himself reinforces ideals of equality and moral courage. When collectors pursue rare varieties within this series, they are not merely chasing profit, they are participating in a national narrative. Owning a 1992 close AM feels like holding a secret fragment of that story, a private footnote to the saga of American coinage. The fascination also highlights how technology democratizes knowledge. 50 years ago, only specialists with microscopes and trade journals could identify such varieties. Today, anyone with a smartphone can enlarge a coin, compare it to reference photos, and join a global conversation. Online communities share discoveries instantly. A teenager in Lahore or Manila can upload a photo, and within minutes experts from New York or London offer opinions. The barrier between professional and amateur has vanished, replaced by collective curiosity. The 1992 close AM thus lives simultaneously in museums, auction catalogs, and countless internet posts, a perfect example of how history now travels at digital speed. As collectors analyze these coins, they often reflect on their own journeys. Many began by saving coins from childhood, fascinated by the images of presidents and monuments. Over time, they learned about mint marks, die cracks, double dies, and planchet errors. Discovering the close AM variety often becomes a rite of passage, a moment when a hobby transforms into a calling. The patience required to inspect thousands of pennies cultivates focus and humility. Every failed search deepens appreciation for the one coin that breaks the pattern. The culture surrounding rare pennies has even influenced language. Phrases like, "worth a pretty penny," or "find a lucky cent," gain literal resonance. Social media trends encourage people to film their hunts, turning numismatics into entertainment. Some videos show families gathering around kitchen tables, sorting through jars, narrating each coin they check. Children learn history without realizing it, absorbing lessons about design, presidents, and mints. The 1992 close AM functions as a gateway, a story that draws people into deeper exploration of art, economics, and craftsmanship. Museums and academic institutions also study these varieties for what they reveal about industrial processes. Metallurgists examine dieware, flow lines, and microfractures to understand production tolerances. Economists analyze how scarcity affects perception of value. Cultural historians see parallels between coin collecting booms and broader societal moods. After economic downturns, interest in tangible collectibles tends to rise as people seek security and nostalgia. The early 2000s, following market instability, witnessed a surge in coin collecting, and the legend of the 1992 close AM road that way. One might ask what the future holds for this tiny piece of metal. As physical currency slowly gives way to digital transactions, pennies circulate less each year. But rarity thrives on disappearance. When a form of money vanishes from daily use, the survivors gain new prestige as relics of a vanished era. If the United States ever discontinues the cent, the 1992 close AM will instantly ascend from curiosity to icon, representing the final spark of an age when every purchase, no matter how small, passed through human hands. Market analysts predict that top-rated examples will continue to appreciate modestly as long as demand for Lincoln varieties remains high. The true ceiling is psychological rather than numerical. Collectors are motivated by story, not spreadsheet. A perfectly preserved close AM embodies narrative density, historical significance, mechanical mystery, and emotional resonance compressed into one artifact. As long as humans crave stories of discovery, its value, monetary or mythical, will endure. What fascinates many observers is how myths and truths intertwine. The $168 million claim, though impossible, persists because it dramatizes an underlying fact, a penny's potential to become something extraordinary. It's a parable about observation and luck, about the hidden wealth of awareness. People share the number not because they believe it literally, but because it gives shape to imagination. The myth is the flame. The real coin is the spark that keeps it alive. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the 1992 penny's journey is what it teaches about noticing. In a world overflowing with mass-produced objects, attention has become rare. The collector's gaze rescues meaning from monotony. By examining a coin under light, by tracing the delicate lines of Lincoln's face or the pillars of the memorial, we practice mindfulness in metal form. The close AM reminds us that wonder often hides in routine, waiting for someone to look closely enough. And so, as the camera pans over trays of gleaming cents, as the narrator's voice softens, the story of the 1992 one-cent coin settles into perspective. It is not a miracle of material wealth, but a perception. Its worth, whether measured in thousands or in the imagined hundreds of millions, lies in its power to make people see differently, to realize that history, art, and chance converge in the smallest corners of life. Somewhere, another jar of pennies waits, another pair of eyes will notice the subtle closeness of two letters, and another legend will be born. The search never ends, because what people are truly hunting for is not metal but meaning, the timeless glimmer of discovery that turns an ordinary moment into treasure. As the decades roll forward, the 1992 one-cent coin keeps weaving itself into new layers of meaning. Every generation rediscovers it with fresh curiosity, and what was once simply an obscure minting anomaly slowly becomes a lens through which we examine our relationship with value itself. In the early years of the 21st century, online auction sites transformed how coins changed hands. Before then, collectors traveled to conventions, flipping through binders and velvet trays under fluorescent lights. Now a coin could travel across continents with a single click. High-resolution photographs and third-party grading services gave people confidence to invest in objects they had never touched. The 1992 close AM, once a whispered rumor among specialists, started appearing on digital screens in millions of homes. The effect of that exposure was profound. Suddenly, ordinary people who had never thought about numismatics began examining their change under kitchen lamps. The thrill of discovery was contagious. Videos emerged showing magnified shots of tiny AM gaps, narrators whispering with excitement as if unearthing buried treasure. The story blended perfectly with the new culture of viral fascination. Short clips, suspenseful reveals, dramatic price tags. The notion that a single penny could, under the right circumstances, be worth life-changing money became an irresistible symbol of hope in an age saturated with uncertainty. But beyond hype, something deeper stirred. People realized that coins carry evidence of continuity. Governments change, technologies evolve, yet the same portrait of Lincoln still travels through time. The 1992 issue stands on a bridge between analog and digital America, minted in an era of rotary phones and paper maps, yet destined to achieve fame through online screens. Each close AM specimen links two worlds, serving as a physical hyperlink between the tactile past and the virtual present. Inside the mint, the story has taken on legendary status among employees. New technicians hear it during training. How a minute oversight decades ago created one of the rarest modern synths. It serves as both cautionary tale and badge of pride, reminding them that their work, though repetitive, is watched by history. The Philadelphia and Denver mints continue to experiment with improved quality control, optical scanners, laser sensors, automated vision systems that can detect misalignments smaller than a human hair. Yet even those machines operate under the same universal law. Perfection is asymptotic, never fully reached. Somewhere, someday, another die will carry a tiny flaw, and another collector will be born the moment someone notices. For professional graders, examining a 1992 close AM is almost ceremonial. Under bright halogen light, they rotate the coin slowly, letting the mirrored surfaces flash between copper red and amber. They check for contact marks, strike sharpness, luster flow, and any trace of cleaning. Then, they consult reference images, confirming the telltale intimacy between the A and M. When the verdict is certain, they encapsulate the coin in transparent acrylic with a printed label. That slab becomes both protection and passport, certifying authenticity for the global market. The difference between a grade of MS-65 and MS-67 can mean thousands of dollars, but collectors pay willingly for certainty. Each label represents not just technical evaluation, but emotional assurance, the guarantee that the miracle is real. At auctions, the atmosphere grows electric whenever one appears. The auctioneer's voice quickens, cameras zoom, murmurs ripple through the room. Bidders glance at their tablets, hearts racing. A flick of a finger adds another $1,000. The numbers climb, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, and each increment feeds the myth. When the final hammer falls, applause breaks out, partly for the buyer, partly for the coin, and partly for the spectacle of a simple scent commanding reverence normally reserved for fine art. Journalists write about it. Headlines proclaim, "Tiny coin fetches huge sum." Viewers who read those stories later that night reach instinctively for their own spare change, squinting at the letters on the reverse. Meanwhile, the field of numismatics keeps evolving. Digital databases now map every known specimen, logging minute details like die state, toning, and provenance. Artificial intelligence tools compare new photographs against archives to confirm authenticity. Yet even in this data-driven landscape, the romance remains. A machine may verify a close AM in seconds, but it cannot replicate the surge of discovery a person feels when realizing they hold one. That surge, equal parts luck, knowledge, and wonder, is what sustains the hobby across generations. Philosophers of collecting sometimes say that humans are hardwired to seek patterns. We search the ordinary world for signs that we have stumbled upon something extraordinary. Coins satisfy that instinct perfectly. They are small, plentiful, and filled with micro details waiting to be noticed. The 1992 close AM acts as the ultimate confirmation of this impulse, proof that the universe still hides secrets in plain sight. For every lucky finder, there are millions of others whose search teaches patience. And patience, ironically, becomes its own reward, an antidote to the frantic pace of modern life. From an economic standpoint, the pennies saga also raises questions about value creation. How can a piece of metal intrinsically worth less than 1 cent become an asset worth thousands or, in myths, millions? The answer lies not in material, but in narrative scarcity. Value is a collective story people agree to believe. The rarer and more compelling that story, the more powerful its market effect. The 1992 close AM embodies that phenomenon better than any financial textbook could explain. It demonstrates that economics and mythology often overlap, each feeding the other until price becomes a reflection of imagination. Outside collector circles, educators use the coin to spark interest in history and science. Teachers show students how slight design modifications signal technological change. Historians discuss how Lincoln's image became an emblem of democratic endurance. Metallurgists analyze the shift from bronze to zinc-plated composition as an adaptation to rising costs. The penny thus becomes a miniature classroom where art, politics, and engineering meet. In that sense, the close AM variety is a bonus chapter, a twist ending reminding students that even standardized systems contain surprises. Cultural commentators view the obsession with rare coins as a mirror of broader desires. In a digital economy where most money exists as numbers on screens, the idea of tangible value becomes comforting. Holding a coin anchors people to the physical world. The faint metallic smell, the cool weight, the sound of it landing on a table, all evoke authenticity. When society feels intangible, a copper disc offers proof of reality. The 1992 close AM embodies that craving for something you can actually hold and see, something whose value comes not from algorithms, but from human attention. The continuing myth of the $168 million penny illustrates the narrative hunger of our times. The figure may be exaggerated, but its persistence reveals how deeply people want to believe that the overlooked can become priceless. It's the same emotional logic that fuels fairy tales and viral news alike, transformation of the humble into the magnificent. And even though any realistic auction price is far lower, the story's exaggeration keeps interest alive, inviting new audiences into the fold. Every exaggeration carries a grain of truth, that hidden treasures still exist, and that ordinary eyes can find them. Looking ahead, the future of the Lincoln set remains uncertain. Economists argue that production costs exceed face value, and that phasing out the penny would save millions annually. Yet tradition resists change. Citizens write petitions, lawmakers hesitate, and cultural inertia holds firm. Should the penny finally retire, the 1992 close AM will not fade, it will shine brighter, elevated from modern rarity to historic monument. Museums will display it beside the first 1909 Lincoln cent, completing a narrative arc from birth to legacy. In private homes, collectors continue the ritual. They pour coins onto soft cloths, spread them under bright lamps, and let their eyes wander. Somewhere, someone tonight might unknowingly hold the next discovery, perhaps a new variety unnoticed for decades. That possibility keeps the spirit of exploration alive. The 1992 close AM thus becomes both destination and beginning, proof that hidden wonders await anyone patient enough to look. As the narration drifts toward conclusion, Imagine the camera slowly zooming in on a single gleaming penny resting on a fingertip. The background fades into darkness. The voice softens. Every coin is a story, every scratch a sentence, every gleam a reflection of countless lives. The 1992 close AM is more than metal. It is evidence of curiosity, persistence, and the human need to assign meaning to the smallest things. In its faint letters lies a reminder that greatness can emerge from accidents, and that sometimes the tiniest differences create the most enduring legends. So, the next time you hear the rattle of change, pause. Look closer. Between those two tiny letters, between A and M, lies an entire universe of history, art, luck, and longing. Perhaps you hold one right now. Perhaps not. But the act of looking, that spark of wonder, is worth more than any price tag ever printed. Night settles over the city, and the world quiets to a faint hum. Somewhere, a light flickers across a desk. A magnifying glass lies beside a small pile of coins. The narrator's tone slows, softer now, like a heartbeat easing after a long journey. The camera glides across the tabletop, glinting reflections off the copper faces that once passed through millions of hands. Each coin, regardless of its value, hums with invisible energy, the trace of every exchange, every moment when someone used it without knowing the story it carried. The lens stops on a single penny, the 1992 cent, polished by time and touch. The focus tightens until the letters on the reverse fill the frame. There they are, the A and the M, almost touching, whisper close, joined by the tiniest bridge of space. The viewer feels that breath of distance, like the pause between two words of a secret. Then the voice returns, deep and calm. Between those letters, history hides. Music begins to swell, slow strings, the kind that sound like memory turning into hope. The story of this coin is retold in that melody. The clang of mint presses, the hum of conveyor belts, the shout of workers, the slip of a die changing hands, the decades of circulation, and finally the moment of discovery. All those moments compress into one heartbeat. What was an error becomes a legend. What was ordinary becomes timeless. The narrator continues, describing how the coin's journey mirrors the journey of human curiosity itself. Every person who has ever looked closer, every scientist peering through a microscope, every artist perfecting a line, every dreamer chasing a detail, each has lived some version of this same story. The 1992 1-cent coin becomes a metaphor for that impulse. We look, we notice, we find meaning where no one thought to search. That is the real treasure. Attention. Images flash on screen. Close-ups of Lincoln's solemn face, archival photographs of the mint, microscopic shots of the A and M, auction scenes, collectors smiling as they hold tiny plastic cases. Each image dissolves into the next as if time itself were melting into copper. The voice describes how every person, whoever touched the penny, unknowingly contributed to its tale. A cashier in 1992 handing it over, a child saving it in a jar, a collector decades later inspecting it under light, all part of one invisible chain. Then the tone shifts slightly, almost philosophical. Value, the voice says, is not only what people pay. Value is the story we agree to tell. The screen fills with montages of hands passing coins across counters, old photographs of Lincoln, glimpses of bustling markets, children playing with pocket change. The penny connects them all. Even as cash fades and digital payments replace coins, that image of Lincoln endures, a reminder of moral courage pressed into metal. The narrator reflects on how the penny's design, created to honor unity after a divided past, now unites generations of collectors. The close AM variety is a symbol of continuity. One meant small misalignment creating decades of connection among strangers who will never meet but share the same sense of wonder. Music swells again, stronger now, hopeful. The camera returns to the coin, rotating slowly on a turntable, under a single beam of light. The voice. This is not the story of money. It is the story of how humans search for meaning in the smallest spaces. Between the A and the M, between chance and intention, between error and perfection, lies the heartbeat of discovery. The sound of a coin dropping onto a wooden table echoes, clean, sharp, final. Silence lingers a moment before the narrator speaks again, quieter, almost a whisper. Maybe you'll find one. Maybe you won't. But when you look, really look, you've already found what matters most, the curiosity that keeps the world alive. The screen fades to black, and the faint glow of copper letters appears. 1992, 1 cent to infinity. Music resolves gently, the last notes carrying a sense of calm completion. Then the outro voice returns in the style of classic YouTube narration. If you enjoyed this journey through the story of the 1992 1-cent coin, remember, the next great discovery could be hiding right in your pocket. Keep looking, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of a single penny. Time, as always, keeps moving, but some stories refuse to fade. The tale of the 1992 penny has now passed into legend, whispered in online forums, printed in numismatic journals, and retold across countless YouTube channels where each storyteller adds a little more wonder to the myth. Yet underneath the hype and headlines lies something more profound. The coin itself, small and silent, remains unchanged. It doesn't know it's famous. It doesn't care about auctions or million-dollar rumors. It simply exists, copper, zinc, and memory fused together, carrying on the quiet work of survival in a way that is what makes it beautiful. Humans have a tendency to forget that the objects we adore are indifferent to us. The penny will outlast its collectors. It will lie hidden in drawers, buried in soil, maybe resting in museum glass, waiting for another century to pass. And yet, every generation will find a reason to fall in love with it again. They will study the same letters, trace the same portrait, marvel at the same imperfection. The cycle will continue, because fascination itself is immortal. The narrator's voice becomes slower, deeper, more intimate. Think about this, it says. The 1992 penny was struck from metal that once slept inside the earth for millions of years. That copper ore formed in silence, beneath oceans and mountains, before any human ever walked the surface. Then miners dug it up, melted it, shaped it, stamped it, and gave it purpose. It passed from geology into economy, from stone into story. That is the miracle of civilization, the power to turn raw earth into memory. The camera shows molten metal pouring into molds, then flashes of mint machinery, then slow-motion shots of shiny coins falling into bins. The visuals blend with narration. And from those millions of identical pieces, one carried an accident, a tiny difference so small it could have gone unnoticed forever. But it was seen. And because someone cared enough to look, the world gained another legend. The music becomes almost celestial now, soft piano and echoing strings. The story widens from the penny to the people who chase it. Collectors are shown at their desks, children with magnifying glasses, old men flipping through albums. The narrator continues, "This is what connects us, the desire to discover, the thrill of recognition. Every collector is a historian of small things. Every find is an act of love toward detail, an act of patience toward time. The 1992 penny is not merely a coin. It is a teacher, reminding us that even the smallest mistakes can create beauty, that perfection without surprise is lifeless." Scene shift to libraries, auction halls, and mint facilities, as the voice reflects on how technology might change the future of collecting. Perhaps one day coins will no longer circulate. Perhaps all money will become invisible, just data and digits moving through wires. But as long as even one person keeps a jar of coins by their bedside, the spirit of the hunt will live on. Because it's not really about money. It's about mystery. Then, as if speaking directly to the audience, The narrator says, "Maybe you are watching this right now, wondering if you have something rare in your own hands. Maybe you've searched, or maybe you haven't yet begun. But know this, the search itself is the treasure. You are part of this story now. Every time someone looks closely, every time curiosity replaces routine, the legend grows. The coin may be 1992, but the discovery is eternal." The music deepens, then gently slows. The imagery fades to black and white footage of pennies tumbling through years: 1909, 1943, 1982, 1992, 2025, flowing like a timeline across the screen. The narrator's tone becomes poetic. From the first Lincoln cent struck in 1909 to the mysterious close AM of 1992, the coin has carried more than just numbers. It has carried the fingerprints of time itself. It has seen wars and peace, hardship and progress, silence and song. And though it is small enough to lose between couch cushions, its story is large enough to fill a lifetime. Now the music softens to one final, emotional refrain, a simple piano melody. The narrator whispers, "Every legend begins with something ordinary. Every masterpiece begins with a mistake. Every search begins with one glance. So look closer at your pocket change, at the world, at yourself. Because somewhere, between two tiny letters, the universe still hides its secrets." The sound fades out, leaving only the faint echo of a coin spinning on wood, a metallic heartbeat that slows, and finally stops. The screen darkens completely. Then, faintly, glowing letters appear in silence. The screen stays dark. A soft hum of wind fades in, like time whispering. A single ray of light falls across the surface of a coin resting on an open palm. The camera moves in slowly, the coin's edges glowing like a sunrise in miniature. The voice returns, calm and resonant. "They say fortune favors the bold. But sometimes, fortune hides in the quietest places. In the corners of drawers. In old jars. In the palm of a hand that takes a second to look closer." A heartbeat sound, slow, rhythmic, fills the background. The narrator continues, "The 1992 penny was never meant to be rare. It was never meant to be worth millions. And yet, it became a legend because someone noticed what everyone else ignored. One mistake turned into a miracle. One coin turned into history. That's how the world works. Greatness often begins in silence." The music builds gently, piano joined by low strings. The visuals show quick flashes, a mint machine stamping coins, close-ups of the A and M, collector smiling, a gavel striking at an auction, the headline, 1992 penny sells for $168 million, appearing on screen. Then the narrator's tone softens again. "So maybe, the next time you hold a penny, don't just see change. See possibility. Because if a 1-cent coin can change someone's life, maybe yours can too." The music grows, hopeful, cinematic, almost heroic. The visuals show coins spinning through the air, turning into stars against a black sky. The narrator speaks like a whisper of truth. "The universe hides its wonders in plain sight. All we have to do is look." The music pauses, one long, peaceful silence. Then, softly, the outro begins. This was the story of the 1992 1 cent, a coin that proved that even the smallest piece of metal can hold the weight of history. If this story moved you, if it made you look a little closer at the world around you, then let it remind you, there is magic in the details. The piano fades back in. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, give this video a like. It really helps the story reach more people. Subscribe for more tales from the hidden corners of history. And maybe check your pocket change tonight. Who knows what secret is waiting there for you? The screen shows your channel logo slowly appearing, glowing copper red, like a penny under light. The last line of narration lands quietly but powerfully. One coin. One story. One chance to see the world differently. The music rises to one final gentle note. The screen fades to black. Then, after a few seconds of silence, a faint metallic clink echoes, like a coin landing perfectly flat. The end.